For a long, long time, people have talked about a great calamity that's heading for our world. But there's one specific outline, one that comes directly from Jesus himself, that gives us a really detailed framework for what's coming. So today, we're going to walk through that exact framework piece by piece. So where does all this come from? Well, the whole thing actually starts with a question, a really important one. Jesus' own disciples asked him, point blank, what's the sign that you're coming back and that the world as we know it is ending? That question, that's where we're going to start.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with the foundational prophecy itself. Then, we'll get into the sequence of signs. After that, we'll define what's called the tribulation, clear up a common confusion about two different wars, and wrap up with the big question of timing.
All right, first up, the foundational prophecy. Look, to really get this, we have to go right back to the original source text. That's where the whole outline is laid out for us.
The source material is really clear on this. Jesus gave a basic outline that's like the skeleton key for understanding all the other prophecies. And you can find this core structure in three specific places: Matthew chapters 24 and 25, Mark chapter 13, and Luke chapter 21. Think of these as the absolute blueprint for everything that's going to happen. Okay, on to our second section. And this is where things start to build. We're talking about the sequence of signs. Now, it's really important to understand. These aren't the main event, not even close. They're the precursors, the warning shots for a global event that's going to be on a scale we've never seen before. So what's so critical here is the progression. You see how it escalates? It starts out very specific, almost local. Jerusalem is surrounded by an army, it's destroyed, and the temple is desecrated. But from that single point, the scope just explodes. It moves to what the source calls a special kind of war. And listen to this, it involves all the kingdoms of the world. All of them. And right after that, widespread natural disasters on a planetary scale. We're talking famines, plagues, earthquakes. These aren't just a few isolated problems. The picture being painted here is of a total global calamity. And that terrifying sequence of events leads us right into a very specific period of time. Section 3, Inside the Tribulation. This isn't just more of the same. It's the start of a whole new, incredibly intense era for the entire planet. So what exactly is this tribulation? Well, the source defines it with almost surgical precision. It's a period of time that kicks off after a very specific event happens, the moment Christ comes back to take believers out of the world. You really have to grasp that part because according to this framework, that one event is the key that unlocks everything else that comes after it.
And you get a real sense for what this time will be like from these three characteristics. First, you've got the rise of false Christs popping up. Second, just widespread lawlessness, chaos everywhere. But then there's this third thing, and it's a huge contrast. In the middle of all that darkness, the gospel is preached globally, and it reaches what the source calls great multitudes of people. It's this incredible paradox, right? Total disorder and a message of hope spreading like wildfire at the exact same time. Okay, when you're talking about prophecy, it is so easy to get events mixed up, and that's why the source makes a point to clarify something really important. So Section 4 is all about a critical distinction. We're going to look at two specific wars that people often lump together, but are actually described as completely separate events.
So here's the deal. We have to understand the difference between what's called Ezekiel's War and the War of Armageddon. And the source couldn't be clearer about it. On one hand, you have Ezekiel's War from the book of Ezekiel. This is a conflict with just a few specific nations involved. It's a limited alliance. But on the other hand, you have Armageddon. And this, described in the book of Revelation, is a global war, a war involving all the kingdoms of the world. The difference is everything. It's the scale. One is regional, the other is total.
And all of this brings us to our last section. And honestly, it's probably the most pressing question in this whole outline. Section 5, the question of timing. After laying out this entire sequence of, frankly, catastrophic events, the source finally tackles the one question that's on everybody's mind.
Yeah, it's the ultimate question, isn't it? After hearing all that, you just have to ask, so, when? When will these things happen? When does the clock start?
And the answer we get is completely definitive. It's direct. The source quotes the Lord saying, "No one but God knows when this will begin." So we should be ready at all times for that day. You see how the focus just completely shifts? It's not about trying to predict a date on a calendar. It's about being in a state of constant preparedness. The timing, we're told, is intentionally hidden from us.
So that leaves us with this one final, really crucial thought. If the whole point isn't about circling a date on the calendar, but about this idea of readiness, well, that kind of forces a more personal question, doesn't it? When the source tells us to be ready at all times, what does that actually look like for you and me today?